3, it's recording. All right, we're all called to order. I don't see any public here, so we will move on. Did everybody get a chance to look at the December minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Charlie, did you get a chance to look at the December minutes?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Any additions, corrections? Okay. I move that we accept the December minutes as printed. Second by Jackie,
Yes.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so I guess you're still sending them in, right, Charlie?
Yeah, I can send them in, yes.
Okay, so you can send in December. Today the 11th.
12. Tomorrow's Friday the 13th.
Okay, so that is done. Okay, the interview. So did anybody get a chance to see that?
I saw part of it. I don't know how to access the schedule and.
Yeah, you have to ask them.
Okay. No, I mean, I was
Right,
channel
yeah.
surfing and I saw it. It was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was kind of toward the end, but it was still very good. And I really liked the way you and Nina interacted.
Right, now were there, because I haven't seen it since it's been recorded, did they put the slides in?
Well, it came across very well,
Okay.
very helpful.
Yeah.
It's a beginning,
Right. I mean,
basic,
Yeah, and
basic.
Dinah said she would be interested in,
and the
sort of-
interaction was minimal. She kept saying very helpful. What is your opinion?
I didn't get a chance to see it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
but-
wanted to congratulate you because I think you did a good job and your historical memory was very helpful. It came across, as someone who knows what you're talking about.
well,
But-
I showed you the outline,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we used that as our sort of keeping us on track.
Do you know what is the number of people who listen to this?
No
What is
clue.
the reach?
No clue.
No clue. That would be interesting to
You
know.
were going to ask about the slides, the links to the videos. Is that what you were going to ask about? Yeah.
We can talk about that.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I don't, because I remember when I showed you the outline, it was PowerPoint slides,
Right.
and, what's the kid that works over there?
Caleb?
Caleb said he would be able to put them in at strategic
Oh,
places,
okay.
because it had,
Okay.
because a lot of what I was saying, look at this website, look at that website, you can't really expect people watching something to quick copy down the website.
Right.
So hopefully, I haven't gone back, I haven't
But
had a
I
chance to
didn't
go-
miss anything and I didn't know about those slides. I have a question. I wonder if I can ask you that question. Given that the Capelike Compact is an aggregator of all the towns in Cape Cod, why can't it offer a better rate to their users?
His Capelike Compact has a bunch of criteria for who they enter into a deal with. Because they have to go out to the market, and they have to talk to different producers of electricity, and they have to rate them. Price is definitely one of the factors, but the other factor that is it green? And they're not going to enter into a contract with a company that is still using coal or, that type of thing, getting their energy in that way. And they don't want to enter into a contract with anybody that requires at the user end to sign a contract. Like Compact doesn't want people to have to sign contracts, so you can come and go as you please, So there's criteria, and price is one of the criteria. It's not the only criteria. Next Era does a really good job with renewable energy. They plow a lot of their profits back into supporting all kinds of renewables, whether it be wind farms or solar farms or, that type of thing. So that's how Capelike Compact gets their, and they only want to get into a 6-month deal, you know, so NextEra, Capelike Compact has promised them till June.
But Eversource is the same, right? 6 months?
Yep. Eversource is a little more expensive than Capelike
I
Compact
know,
right now.
I know.
But if you go on, the state has a website that has like all of the approved providers for Massachusetts, so you, in like a table, and you can like read down that table and it tells you the name of the company, what they're charging, you know, and then is there a contract, is there not a contract, you know, how long is it, is there an exit fee if you choose not to go, you know. So Capelike Compact, that's how they do it. Every other company has their own criteria.
My difficulty comes from the fact that maybe I don't know exactly what the Capelike Compact is, because I see it as a non-profit.
It is a nonprofit. They don't get any money out of this.
But still
They're
there.
an intermediary.
Right. We're an aggregator, so we are a way to have the Cape, be out there competing for electricity as together, because towns couldn't do it by themselves, they're too small.
Sure.
You know, they would never get the best price. And the two main players here are gonna be Eversource and Capelike Compact. They're the two main players on the Cape. Those other companies, like, you know, I forget what they're called,
It doesn't matter.
you know, Constellation or whatever.
It used to be Dominion, it used to be one.
Yeah, they come and go. I mean, first of all, they're for-profit, as is Eversource, of course, but, and so they're, you know,
Even Eversource
Yeah.
is not for profit.
Per se.
For Eversource.
right. They have
Eversource,
shareholders.
Eversource puts out the standard rate. They don't own any generation.
Right.
So when they put out the standard rate, they look at the generators that are out there in New England, and whatever it costs per kilowatt hour is what you're gonna pay, whatever Eversource is getting for a quote from them. So they're not adding any profit onto that. They're just going out to all the generators in New England, and when they get those dollars in, that's the price that's gonna be the
So
basic
how
rate
did-
for you.
How do they make their money?
How does Eversource make their money?
Yes.
Eversource makes their money a couple of different ways. Number one,
Delivery?
primarily, that's it.
Okay.
So you
Poles
get-
and wires.
So you've got distribution, which is all the wires you see on the street, and then when you see them go for a rate case to raise their rates, okay?
It's on
In the
distribution.
old days, that's what it used to be, strictly that. And there's also transmission, which is regulated by the federal government, and they're allowed to make, and I don't have the exact number, but when I worked there, I wanna say it was around 13%. So if you built a substation in Harwich, Eversource would have been able to make money off from that. So if it costs $1 million, then they get 13% off from that $1 million, and that's,
Which
would
they
go into the rates.
Right, which they would
And that's
plow
guar-
back into your rate.
That's correct.
It's rate pair.
And that's guaranteed, you know, when they deal with the federal government, they are guaranteed to get that rate of return. Just like you get a certificate deposit, they guarantee to give you 3%, 4%.
Yeah.
When they build something, you know, big, huge, you know, transmission line, a substation, they're able to get 13% on return on their money on that. 20 years ago, they owned generation, and they did make money off of their generation, but they divested themselves of all the generation. Now they're owned by multiple companies throughout New England, and they're gonna get paid whatever they get paid. Eversource, through deregulation, was required to put out a standard rate, so they make no money off from it. They just pull together whatever the costs are and pass them to you, and that's what you pay. So when you look at, like Val was saying about the Capelike Compact, you know, that's 100% right, which is you got all the towns together, so it's just like any other business, that if you get a lot of people in together, just like Costco or Walmart, you get a better deal on selling dungarees or whatnot, because you're buying truckloads of dungarees instead of just one little store. That's the same way, you know, so,
And The other thing that Capelike Compact does that I think is not well understood by the general public is consumer advocacy.
Yes.
So they just settled, Capelike Compact was just a, what do they call it, intervener in a DPW case where Eversource was looking to up what Glenn was saying, the percentage they can make on new stuff. They wanted it to be 10%. And because Capelike Compact fought it, it got cut back to 9%. They're still gonna make some, and a bunch of other things, So Capelike Compact is out there, sort of, they're paying attention to what Eversource is, and Natural Grid too, what they're doing. And making sure that when they present their plans to DPW or DPU, excuse me, DPU, that it's to the best of Capelike Compact's ability, they are going to try to minimize ratepayer impacts. So on your electric bills, you're going to see an increase in your distribution costs. So as if it wasn't bad enough you're paying more for the electricity, Eversource got a new rate for their distribution costs, so that will also
Increase.
go up.
And they'll go for a rate case whenever they need to. It could be every year, it could be every 2 or 3 years. The public always fights back because they're gonna throw their
Right.
hands up and say, well, why? This is just obscene what you're asking for.
You
And they
said
always do-
need to. Can you qualify
Now,
that?
sometimes they do need to.
They have to build something.
So let's say that one of the biggest costs is fuel for all the trucks that go out there to service the lines. And if you saw it go from $3 to $4, 25%, I mean, you're looking
Okay.
at that increased cost providing you with service. So that's where they would say, well, we need more money to be able to do this.
Okay.
So when you look at the price of gasoline and natural gas, obviously, we're paying a lot more for natural gas with what's
Absolutely.
going on compared to 3 or 4 years ago.
Of course.
That affects all of us, whether or not it's heating our homes or at the pump for just regular gasoline. So they are looking to, so copper prices have gone up, so when they put in new lines, that costs money because copper prices have gone up. So there's all things
Yeah,
that.
it's a
enter
huge
into it.
industry, and it's
Absolutely.
very complex. And, I think one of the things that we're starting to see, I think we'll see more down the road, but part of why Eversource rates are a little higher than Nextera is Nextera is able to capitalize on renewables. And renewables didn't used to be, but are currently coming down in price.
Yes.
And natural gas is going up, and so Eversource gets a lot of their electricity from natural gas generated plants,
Right.
which of course they're gonna have to charge more for that.
Of course.
And you're absolutely right, that, you're turning utilities on their head as far as renewables costing less.
Right.
Because forever, it was
Way more, yeah.
way more expensive. And then with what's happening in the Ukraine, and you're looking at natural gas prices, and we're sending natural gas to Europe, I mean, all the power plants that are being built over the last 20 years, you're seeing no more nuclear plants. There's no oil plants, there's no coal plants. So pretty much everything that was new that was base loaded or large generators was all natural gas. And you saw when they were doing all this fracking out in the Midwest and whatnot, you saw a huge supply of natural gas, and it's cheap. But in New England, we don't have a lot of large pipelines coming in from the Midwest, so the supply of bringing natural gas to New England has always been very tight. And now with the prices where they are, it's causing your electric prices to go up, generation electric prices to be going up quite a bit.
And I read somewhere that this part of the country is famous for high cost,
The highest,
the highest.
except for Hawaii.
Hawaii.
And Alaska, despite the fact they have all that oil,
Right, they're
I think
high.
Alaska also tends to be high
Right,
too.
right.
My buddy, he's the sustainability manager for the town of Dayton. And him and I got into an argument a few months ago because he was telling me that he was getting solar power for the city of Dayton at less than 1 cent a kilowatt hour. And I said, no. And he said, absolutely, we are. We're getting it at 0.7 of 1 penny. And I said, no. and he's a very stubborn guy. And I wound up going on the city of Dayton's website. They were getting it for 7 cents a kilowatt,
Which is
still ridiculously low for renewable energy. I mean, compared to a few years ago, you're sitting there going, sign me up, this is fantastic. And it would be the same thing
Right.
for Cape
But
Cod.
do you wanna live in Dayton?
Right.
I will tell you this, great city. I never thought about that until I went there and visited. I was shocked. That is a really nice little city. It really
Yeah, well, I
is.
have
It's
a
pretty
good
far
friend-
from the ocean,
I
though.
have a good friend who lives
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and she moved back there reluctantly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it depends where you are. But anyway, the point being is
Yes.
that, getting
Thank
back to
you.
this, that I think that, you know, I have no idea who watches Channel 18. I do think there is a cadre of people out there that do, because otherwise, why would they even have it, you
Now,
know?
in a nutshell, what was your presentation on? Was
All
it-
the things we have heard here at this table,
Okay.
but
You know what
in
I
a more
wanted to just
organized
mention?
way, you
When
know.
we talk about Capelike Compact, what the thing you haven't mentioned that I really like is the fact that
This was
they
our
have,
outline.
that they have stepped in on behalf of people of low income
Yes,
to figure out ways for them to be able to access these resources. And, you know, for a low income person, I find that very,
absolutely. And
very
they,
much a plus.
and they're very much involved, Capelike Compact is currently very much involved in getting the DPU to finally approve a program that really targeted low-income people for things like putting like solar panels and heat pumps in for low-income people where it's covered pretty much 100%, you know, so anyway, that's still being worked on.
Now,
DPU was not happy with it, and
now in Connecticut,
yeah,
you could go on to the Eversource website, so people below a certain income limit were getting breaks on their electric rates.
you still can do that
In
here.
Massachusetts,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
still do
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, there's a website in the outline. You'll see I mentioned a website you can go to for that.
On the Eversource website or another website, a
It's-
state website?
It's a state website.
Okay, state
Yeah.
website.
And it applies your discount is not dependent on who you get your electricity from. You can get your electricity from Capelike Compact, from Eversource. It doesn't matter who. The discount would apply no matter what. So, yes, and that's, and, so anyway, I don't know if that helps you or not with Capelike Compact and their.
Yeah, it does.
They also, don't
course.
forget, they also advocate and get good rates for the towns. The town is on a separate program from residential, and I'm not 100% sure, the rate, there's a little table in there that has the
And
rate.
can an individual, can we get power from Cape Light Impact or just the town?
Everybody can. Matter of fact, if you check your bill, you probably are a Capelike Compact customer.
Okay.
Let's make this correct. New accounts. If you open a new electric account on Cape Cod, you're automatically put into Capelike Compact.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is different from a lot of aggregators. For a lot of aggregators, you are put into to the Eversource, what they call default program, and then you would have to call and say, please switch me over. Now, here's the caveat though. When the Wild West happens, like right now, when everybody's scrambling to find a different company because they want to save a few pennies, and let's suppose you've decided, I'm going to go with Constellation because they're wicked cheap, and so you sign up for Constellation, and then 3 months later they say, oh, by the way, that was just a beginning rate, now you're going to be paying 30 cents a kilowatt hour, and you say, get me out of here. And if you fire Constellation, like take me off, you will bump back into Eversource default.
Gotcha.
And then you as the customer would have to call up at Capelike Compact and say, I'd like to be reinstated into Capelike. It doesn't cost you any money or anything,
Yeah.
but you have to actually go that extra step. So once you leave Capelike Compact, you kind of have to
Yeah.
ask to get back in.
And back up 20 years, people thought that with deregulation, it was going to drive the cost of electricity down, just like when they deregulated the airlines. So now I get emails
Or
every couple of
phones.
months from Southwest Air saying, fly wherever you want for $59. Well,
Yeah, try to get that.
30 years ago, or 45 years ago when I went to college, I flew on United and it cost me $265 back in 1976 just to fly to Chicago, and it was regulated and the prices were high. So you did see competition and prices come down a little bit, but now they're charging you for baggage and everything. So they're still gonna make their money. It was the same thing with the utilities. At least 20 years ago, when they deregulated in Connecticut and Massachusetts, you saw people at, where I worked with Northeast Utilities before they merged and then became Eversource. Some people thought that, that all the executives are going, oh man, we're gonna make boatloads of money. And then you had other people that thought, well, we're gonna buy all these power plants and we're gonna make boatloads of money. Well, our CEO at the time said, all of our power plants are old. We don't really want to keep them, because we got all these young guys, young executives out in the Midwest who want to buy them. And that's exactly what happened. Northeast Utilities sold all of their big oil and gas generators. They sold them to a company out in Minnesota, and the kids in Minnesota thought that they were going to make all this money in deregulation, and we thought we were going to make money from selling all these assets, and somebody's willing to pay all this money for it. And as far as the customers go, you and I, we were supposed to all of a sudden get our electric rates coming down. It never really came to fruition. They didn't necessarily go up. What's gone up is the price of fuel, but you didn't see deregulation really help out you and me.
I have a question, Glenn. One of my concerns is how update is our grid. I'm thinking of hurricanes and extreme situations. What is the motivation of Eversource to keep that grid up to date?
Did you hear me say that they get 13% on their investment?
That's the motivation.
I was in that group, and that's what I did for 12 years, because you're allowed to get 13%. We built new substations, we put new conductors, and we hardened all of our transmission grid. And you're seeing down in North Carolina and California, these guys out shooting up transformers and substations. When I had to put in a battery house in one of the substations, it had to be ballistic, so the guy couldn't shoot through the walls and destroy the equipment. So you're allowed to make money off of that, so that's the motivator right there. So when you saw the campfire out in California that burned up that whole, what was the name of the town?
Yeah.
Paradise.
Oh, God. What a name.
PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, got sued billions of dollars because they had hooks that hold the lines up in the air off from the poles, and they were 100-year-old hooks that were worn through, and it just broke, so the wires came down and started to fire. So they weren't spending a lot of money on their grid. Here in New England, at least Eversource, we were way ahead of the game, and we spent a lot of money
And
on
I
our
just
grid.
put in a $1 million battery storage in Provincetown.
And they did that because it was cheaper for them to build that than to build a line all the way down.
Absolutely,
Because
yeah.
when you build lines, you go through a really extensive permitting process that takes years. And if you get people to buy into, well, instead of spending all the money there, we'll store, a battery facility.
Yeah. Now, we'll see how that all works out.
Exactly.
When the power goes out down there,
Exactly.
which, because there's only one wire that goes out to Provincetown. If it goes down, the whole outer cape is without
You're as
electricity.
strong as your weakest link in anything.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's, we'll see. And Eversource is, and here's the good news. So maybe 20 years ago, when those of us that believed in it were saying, we should go for solar, we should put solar on roofs, we should do this. And everybody was like poo-pooing it and all of that. Well, over time, so much solar has been built on Cape Cod, it has kept Eversource from having to put in more transmission. Because Eversource kept saying, oh my God, we're gonna have to, with the growth that's happening on the Cape, we're gonna be having to put more lines down there, it's gonna be so expensive, blah, blah, blah. But because of renewables, we've been able, even though our population has grown and our overall usage of electricity has increased, we have offset a lot of it with renewables. So we have prevented. Is that you, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't answer the other phone, I have iPhone.
You can always call us back if you have to.
I'm not gonna answer.
Okay. Anyway, so So that's the good news. We have been able to, you know, even though we you know, if everybody has, heat pumps, and if everybody's driving an electric vehicle, and if everybody's got a charging station and all of that, that we're gonna be using a lot of electricity. But we hope to offset some of that, at least, by also putting up solar panels, wind farms, and that type of thing, so we can sort of keep up with it.
Okay.
So we don't have to come up with any new you know, like, I don't think it's imperative that we come up with a new topic for Dinah at this meeting, but it's something I want everybody to be thinking about. We might want to do it sort of after our March extravaganza.
After the,
Yeah.
you're good with word, Academy extravaganza, okay, yeah, that's funny.
So anyway,
Okay.
but so keep it on your radar.
Okay,
Keep your ears open to what people are asking you or talking about as far as energy. You say, oh, well, that would make a good topic for us to talk about. Yes, Charlie?
Researching like induction heating for electric stove with cooktop and stuff. We have to have stainless steel outside. Maybe if the prices of natural gas are going up so much, maybe there's an influence that have
Right, right.
reduction of gas.
Yep, and then and there's some of that, this,
Also get more health benefits out of it, especially for the poor people that are most affected by this.
Right.
accident stuff. Maybe we need to look into that. If the gas price is going up, maybe there's a way to.
right, I mean, induction is the way to go.
Each of our reports has written articles on that, saying
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I tried to buy an induction cook and I couldn't because there was not available.
Right, right.
in-
So if
I
you,
don't remember,
Charlie, I sent
white
out
maybe.
later, not too long ago today, I sent out some information with some attachments about the stretch code. And if you look at the, yeah, no, you didn't need to read it for today, but if you read it, the stretchier stretch code, as its nickname is, or and I forget what the real name is, but it does have a ban on gas cooking appliances.
Well, that's the direction we should be aiming if we're doing these presentations, and I think your idea to get the building inspector, you need to get him a copy of it and ask him to come to the meeting, get his comments about whether he can go along it and sell it. We have to really sell it and provide trying to get people to use more electric energy rather
Cool.
than gas, and we're trying to conserve it.
That's pretty warm to me.
Okay.
Okay, Charlie, well, that's something, we're gonna have, because I got that out to everybody late today. We can't talk about it in this meeting, but we can put it on the agenda for next meeting. So next on our agenda for today is the update on the EV charging stations, and I heard from Julie, they only signed that this past Monday.
Signed,
That form that was supposed to go to Eversource.
the one that Luther Bates was
Yeah.
on.
Now, if we had let Luther do it, it would already be done, but.
Yeah.
But anyway, water under the bridge, and Julie said as far as she knows, it was submitted, so.
Okay, and I brought copies of the letter to the
Mhm.
editor exchange, just to show that, first of all.
Which was good, I liked your letter, and.
Yeah, and I thank you
Mhm.
for alerting me to the fact that if I write a letter to the editor, unless I've cleared it with everybody, it can only be from me.
Exactly, you're certainly allowed to be, to say whatever you want as a citizen,
Right.
but if you're gonna write Harwich, Energy Committee, it has to be something that was in a meeting and we
Right.
voted on
And I
and blah, blah, blah.
yeah, but I did write a letter, and then what was very heartening. was
Yes,
to see
yeah,
the letter that came the week after my letter from Steve Clother, and I don't know.
whoever he is.
I don't know, but thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Because he said what I said, but in an even more specific way.
Yeah.
And,
No, I was glad to see that.
yeah, when I saw it, was that, yes. So I think there's gonna be a debate. There's gonna be the Paul Bodages and there's gonna be the Steve Klausners, and we have to be prepared for that. But I think that the more of this we can get in terms of, it's not just good for our pocketbooks or the environment, it's good for the economy of the town.
Exactly.
And as a vacation destination, it's really important. So I was just
Yeah.
thrilled.
And I'm glad that it turned out that you had a supporter out there. I personally am not I do not I don't fight battles on the editorial pages. I'm not an editorial writer. That's just me, you know. If
Yeah.
somebody wants to discuss something with me, come to one of our meetings and let's discuss it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get into a tit for tat.
I
in the
think
newspaper.
Paul Koo something is frozen in time.
Yeah.
Looking to about something at Eversource, I came across this. I'm going to read it to you. Our investment in local grid upgrades to support additional charging stations is a significant step forward in promoting the adoption of EVs.
Yeah, they get money to do this.
I looked for this charging stations in Cape Cod, zero.
Well, there's a ton of them at the new tech school.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I
lots of
heard.
them.
That's what I heard.
And that's Eversource job?
They're all hooked up to Eversource. I mean, it's.
Well,
I mean,
ultimately,
I
yes,
don't
but
know who put them in because I wasn't involved with that.
Yeah, I have
but-
a friend whose granddaughter goes there.
Yeah.
She's the one who told me about
Yeah.
that. I tried to get her to get more information.
I don't know where they came, but there's plenty of them there. I think they probably had their electric shop kids learn how to do it as they were doing it. I mean, I think it was kill two birds with one stone, you know, type of thing.
absolutely.
You know, so that, because these are gonna be more, we're gonna need, one thing that we don't have enough of is electricians. And that could be a bottleneck, in this whole process of trying to find people who are certified and licensed to do this kind of work. That's another discussion. But, anyway, so, yeah, so the point that we're trying to get is, first of all, there's buku money available to Eversource to do this. They do not do it out of the kindness of their hearts. They get paid to do this. There's grant money sitting there waiting for Eversource to tap into.
This whole
Yeah.
long paragraph, talks about their efforts and the benefit they are going to bring to the community.
Right.
It sounds like they are foresighted, you know, and
Right.
came up with this
Well, they
brilliant
have-
idea.
Right, but they get money.
Where are you reading that?
This is the Eversource site in, I Googled
Oh, okay,
Eversource.
Okay, gotcha.
And this is the energy paragraph.
Right. And everybody knows that this is the direction that we're
It's gonna
going
happen.
in, you know, whether you
course.
come kicking and screaming or you're out in front.
And you
I
make
mean,
those crazy calculations that only 4% of the country is driving EVs.
So anyway,
Well, yeah.
so
Good.
as far as I know from Julie, that the application to have Eversource evaluate schoolhouse parking lot for charging stations was signed and sent in, but only this week, so we can't expect.
Well, but it's progress, Valerie.
Yeah, you know.
It's
So
progress.
that's,
So
Snail
really,
pace.
what are we asking Eversource to do with that letter?
so it's an, I don't have a copy
Just
of
that
it.
they would support being able to build it?
So
Or-
what you have to do is, if you're gonna put in like a charging station, you have to contact Eversource first
Yeah.
to see if there's enough power in the area that you're suggesting to support what you want. This is on Main Street in Harwichport, so we're pretty confident that the lines that go down there are probably able to support a couple of charging stations. And if they say yes, it is, then you get in a queue, and they will come in and dig the trench, attach the electric line, and put in, make it charger ready for free. All right, because Eversource will reclaim that money from grant money that's available to them from another pot of money. Then it's up to the town to buy the charging stations and have them installed. Now, here's where the rubber hits the road. We have a company, that Evcon company, who's local, who would be happy to be our general contractor. That they would find these charging stations, they would do all the footwork, you know, to get them, they would give us options of different kinds, we would choose whatever we were gonna do and have them installed. They would also be out there looking for grant money.
Have they been talking with the town
Well,
slash you
Yeah, here's what
officially?
happened.
And it's Evcon?
Evcon, yeah.
Is that the Luther one?
Yep, yep, yeah.
And EVCON stands for what?
I have no idea. So,
Another
EV contract, I don't know.
so when I
Electric
presented this
vehicles.
to the Board of Selectmen,
You did,
yes,
okay.
Joe Powers went ballistic, he said, because on the application, it said that Evcon was the contact. You know, that, for Eversource to get back to them so that they could, Joe Powers said, there's no way, because we have not formally entered into any agreement with Evcon. The town has not entered into any agreement with Evcon, which I understand.
Yeah.
We have not.
Fine.
And so we had to wait out Evcon and put in town of Harwich, which makes it take a lot,
Of time.
Longer.
but it is what it is. Now, what I am hoping is that once we hear back from Eversource, if Eversource says, yeah, you're good to go, you know, that the town will, because I kept saying, you can look it up on the TV when they broadcast it, I kept saying, I said, how are we gonna know that you guys are following up on this, you know, because it can get
That's a
into
good
the
point.
bureaucratic black hole, and I don't, like, just finding out this week that this application never went in December, which is when we decided, it only went in now. You know, so what happens when Eversource gets back to them? Who in that office is gonna take responsibility for following up on this?
It's almost like you have to keep bugging them.
When you
I know.
say their office, you mean selectmen?
Selectman's office.
Do you
So-
think that they're amenable to this, or is this just
I think they're
another
amenable,
thing on the agenda?
I think they're amenable to it, but they just don't wanna have to do it. You know, it's like they like the idea of it, but they don't wanna have to do it, so, you know, that's where I think, you know, ultimately, they will have to get a general contractor of some kind, whether it's Evcon or somebody else, is gonna have to be an RFP that goes out. There is literally nobody in this building that could manage a project like that. Literally, there's nobody.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that there's nobody with the expertise, it's just nobody with the time,
Yeah,
you know, that,
And consequently, the will.
right, the time and the will to take it on. Now Julie, bless her heart, as a selectman, she will be the champion, but, you know, she's the only woman on the committee, and
Kavanaugh.
Julie Kavanaugh, she's our
Selectman.
liaison.
Yeah.
All the selectmen are assigned to coordinate with town committees, and she's ours, or we're hers, whatever that.
I'd love her to come to, I mean, she hasn't been to a meeting since,
She works.
well, I
Yeah,
understand that, I
but-
understand that.
so what you're saying is the fact that this form now goes into Eversource.
Yep.
Eversource responds to the Board of Select,
Right.
so they're gonna say, absolutely, we have whatever you need to be able to support putting in a charging station, and we will bring in, off from the pole, we'll bring it into the parking lot, wherever you guys have
Decide.
a contractor building this charging station, and we'll hook it up for you, but you have to coordinate with us. So now the town's gonna say, okay, now that Eversource is on board, the Board of Selectmen are gonna have to say, okay, this is gonna cost $100,000, whatever. it may
Whatever,
be.
yeah.
And they're gonna say, well, that
Has to go to town meeting.
to the town meeting in March or April, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they have to get that approved for $100,000, and then, and only then would they get to go out to bid to bring in a contractor
Right.
to be able to do this.
Right.
And they don't necessarily have somebody in that department. They probably pass it to somebody in the DPW or the building department to say, hey, Joe, you got enough time to follow this for us?
But, and here's the other thing, is that, let's use $100,000 as our round.
Yep.
Let's suppose that's what's gonna cost,
Yep.
to buy the chargers, that we're looking for about 6. Eversource will let us know. if 6 is okay, or, oh, no, you can only support 4 there, whatever they say. Because we're a municipality, we have to encumber the entire $100,000 at town meeting. We will never pay $100,000. There is so much grant money out there right now that in the end, we may pay nothing.
But it's a set aside.
It is a set aside.
And who for the town would be chasing the grant money?
That's just it.
That's another. up in the
FCON
air.
would do that, or a company.
Okay.
There may be other companies that are like that, but that's the point of having a general contractor, is then they will be out there, you know, looking at, you know, what
Managing.
grants
Okay.
are available.
I just want to point out something which I'm sure we're all aware of, that it's just January, and town meeting is not until May. But
Just right
anything,
now.
I know, I understand, and anything that has to go on the warrant has to be in way before. So it would behoove us to be a little bit of a gadfly, and I don't know how we do that, to just say, did you do it? Did you do it? You know what?
I mean, I think that Julie has said that she would. She said that at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, when I stared at them and I said, who is going to take responsibility for this?
Okay.
And Joe Powers turned to Julie and said, her.
And would you feel comfortable giving her a ring?
I send her emails all the time, because she works, it's easier, you know, and I think that she will, to the best of her ability, keep up with this. Now, she's good friends with Cindy Williams at the Chamber, and Cindy Williams is all over this. She's the one that brought it to our attention. Chamber of Commerce, you know, people.
Now, yeah, you brought her name up a couple of months ago, and that they had already informally talked, you know, with a informal.
Right.
So would the Board of Selectmen get their shorts on a bunch if we had somebody from this committee sit down with her and EvCon informally and just get general information, like,
We've
okay,
done that, yeah.
You've
yeah,
done that
yeah.
already?
Yeah, we've done that. Julie, Cindy, and I met with EvCon at the chamber, so
Okay,
totally off the record for this.
okay, so
Not-
they're
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
the select people are okay with that, as long as it's not in minutes or
Right,
anything.
right.
We're just trying to set the table.
Right, exactly.
So-
We were just fact finding. We were, you know,
Because it would be unthinkable to miss the boat. of
Yeah,
town
I mean,
meeting.
I
To miss
agree
the
with you,
boat of town
because
meeting. I just,
once you have a number, you know, and then it has to be vetted by the finance committee, because they yay or nay everything, you know.
When you sat down with EvCon, do they give you a general idea? Like, I threw out 100,000, I have no idea. 'Cause
It'd be
50
close to
can-
that.
Okay, so that's in the ballpark.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so it's not a $500,000 thing, it's not a $20,000
Right,
thing.
right.
It's roughly, you know,
Right, and again, the hard pill to swallow is, if you were a private person, like let's say you owned a parking lot next to your store,
Mhm.
then let's say the whole thing cost $100,000, you would never pay $100,000, you do a bit at a time, apply for reimbursement, you know, from the grant program, and in the end, you know, maybe you pay $20,000, $30,000, you know. But yes, Charlie, what? Well, yeah, that's a whole separate thing, Charlie. We're up to our armpits just in this municipal thing. Whether,
But that's only for one. 100,000 is for only one station.
no, that's
No.
maybe approximately 6, depending on what Eversource tells us.
That's for 6.
Yeah.
Six stations? Okay, I thought you said it was 100,000.
Oh, no, that's the whole project, give or take. Yeah. And the other thing that, you know, Julie told us is that in the back part of Schoolhouse parking lot is some town property that hasn't been turned into parking spots. So, to answer
Oh,
some of
it sounds
this
like
guy's,
music.
to answer some of this guy's concern, the town could develop
that,
a few more spots back there. Now, the neighbors don't want that, but you know what, it is what it is.
Yeah, and
Um,
the other thing I would say, just having been at town meeting and having presented a warrant article at town meeting, I think it's really important to make sure that we have, if this goes on the warrant for this year's town meeting, that there are people who can speak to
Yep.
the issues, because if, this is not the only guy who has an issue, okay? And we need people like this.
Right. And we would definitely have to, be interviewed by Dinah, we would do stuff.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
so,
you. Okay,
all right,
good.
so that's the update on the EV charging. We will
Yay.
keep bugging Julie about it, and hopefully she will keep us posted. Citizens Energy, I sent out the final sort of
Yes.
draft of it. So, because I have to give this to them ahead of time to get it into the brochure,
Well, the
ju-
current newsletter is January and February.
Right, so we want to be March, April, but she needs it this month,
Oh, okay.
to do it, so,
Okay, good.
Or she needs what this month?
our outline for what we are proposing, what we're gonna be doing for our Citizens Energy Academy. She will not print all of this, I just need to give her ideas, and then she will
Right.
decide how much she can fit into her newsletter.
Have you already put something together? I know a couple of months ago you had something,
I s-
what you proposed.
Yeah, this is the newest version, which,
What are you talking about?
the Citizens Energy Academy,
Yeah.
I sent you,
Yes,
the latest version
yeah, you just
a
sent it
couple days
today.
ago. Was it today?
Okay,
Anyway,
so
you have it at home.
okay.
And I'd be glad to help with 90% of this.
Which one, the second one, or?
Well,
Well,
No.
Capelike Compact will handle that one.
yeah,
The first one will be all us. And you would be a good one to talk about, just basic, how do we get our electricity? What's the difference between distribution, transmission, it's like all of those things that people's, they look at their bill and it has all these little lines on it, like they're paying this much, like 5 different little things that they're paying for, and most people don't have a clue of what those are, and then, a discussion on, costs, just like you were teaching us here,
would you want to go down? I hate to get in the weeds on anything. I believe very strongly in the 30,000 foot
right,
view
right,
of things.
right. Well, we only have 45 minutes, so you won't be able to get in the weeds on too much,
So
yeah.
we're looking at 45 minutes for everything?
45 minutes per day, it's once a week for 4 weeks.
Yep.
It's gonna be at 11 o'clock in the morning, every Tuesday in March.
Once a week for 4 weeks.
At the Council on Aging,
What do you say, every Tuesday?
every
And
Tuesday.
this is 1 hour.
Well, what I'm asking all the groups to do is plan for about 45 minutes of presentation, but leave room for people to
Question and answers.
ask you questions and to,
And is it going to be the same presentation every day? It's not going to be different?
to be different, every
It'd be
Tuesday is
different.
different, yeah, if you
Okay.
look at that. So the first one we do, it's all basically electricity and how to read your bill and why is it so expensive and how do you know how do you switch companies if you want to, how do you make sure you don't get scammed?
So we would be worried
Yes,
about
just
Tuesday,
number one.
March 7th.
Yeah,
Got
and then
it.
the second one, the next Tuesday, Capelike Compact is sending somebody, and which they do this all the time, I don't know yet.
Okay.
And then the third is the Harwich
Can.
Climate Action Committee, and I'll be meeting with them Monday, and they're gonna sort of do the climate change piece.
Yeah, that's network.
Who is?
Network, oh, sorry.
It's not a committee, it's a
All
network.
right,
Do you mind if I keep this? Or do you-
sure, go ahead. So you are what's your full, Harwich?
Climate Action Network.
Climate Action Network, okay, I'll make sure I get that.
Yeah. it's-
So they would do that one, and then, the final one, the fourth, Julian Sear is gonna be here, he's our state senator. And he's gonna be talking about legislation, you know, there was major legislation passed in Massachusetts last year having to do with climate change and energy efficiency and blah, blah, blah. Plus there's the federal issues, hopefully he'll know a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Biden was on TV, he's not coming after your gas stoves.
Yeah.
I guess that was such a hot ticket item that he actually commented on it.
Yeah, so anyway, so those are basically the four Tuesdays, that we're gonna be doing. We only need to worry about the first one really as far as putting together maybe some visuals. It's always good to have something for people to look at, because we'll have a projector and a laptop, you know, type of thing.
And you would like us to be present for all four?
To the best of your ability.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
I'm
yeah,
right at the street.
Right, you know,
so
I mean,
it's
I
not a big
understand
deal.
that every Tuesday for a month might be, but I will be there.
And Valerie, were you gonna be the one that's doing the presenting for this, for our portion, all 45 minutes, or would it be all of us doing a couple?
Yeah,
Bullets each?
I think that, you know, in February, we're gonna have to finalize our part of it.
Okay.
You know, other people will be working on their parts, but we will have to finalize our part. So if, Glenn, if you could think a little bit about how to give that 30,000-foot overview of just how do we get electricity, you know, like, because a lot of people are still pretty unclear about that, you know, and,
No, I'm curious on whether or not you want certain lower level details. And I'll give you an example. Most people don't even know what the voltage is in their outlets. I don't really care that people
yeah,
know what the voltage is
I don't think
in their
that's
outlets.
important. I think that,
But I mean, when you look at what it is that you're actually powering in your house, the
Right.
fact that a microwave is 1,200 watts, a hair dryer is 1,200 watts, an LED light bulb that used to be 60 watts is now 7 watts.
right,
You know, and the fact that when you buy a new washing machine, it costs this much, and how many kilowatt hours you're gonna need for the whole year versus what the most efficient one versus the least efficient, and you can save yourself $20 a
Right,
year,
right.
$30 a year if you buy something that's a little bit more efficient.
and I think, you know, just a brief discussion of what is a kilowatt hour.
I've already put a lot of thought into
Yeah,
how to
because-
present that.
They see it on the bill, you know, I used X number of kilowatt hours this year, this billing period, you know, what is that? And you're being able to compare and
Yeah,
contrast a
and
LED
so-
bulb with a microwave, you know,
And
it's,
a kilowatt hour, you know, I've thought about how, that if a microwave is 1,000 watts, then if you had it on for a whole hour, there's your kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And you're paying 40 cents for running that microwave for that 1 hour.
right, and there's little examples like that you could put on a slide, it just as so this is how it's figured out. So when you get your bill, this is how you got to that number. You know, you ran your microwave, you ran your hairdryer, you turned on your TV. All of those appliances are taking electricity at various levels depending on what they do, and this is how you get it. But your bill, that's only part of your bill. That's the kilowatts that you use. Yeah.
I want to say something as a
Yeah.
foreigner in this country. Turn off your lights.
Oh,
The habit of living rooms lit.
Yeah,
That drives me nuts.
We're
It does-
spoiled, we're
And
spoiled.
leave
My
air
mother was the
conditioning
same
on
way.
and open the door. All those little things add
Yeah.
up tremendously.
oh, I know. No, I.
If you could mention that, motivate people to
Well, I
change
think
their
a
habits.
little bit at the end of the presentation that we're doing.
Yeah.
'cause-
What can we do
do.
as,
Right.
Yeah.
Because Capelike
As a
Compact is
consumer.
gonna get a lot more into that on
Yeah.
energy efficiency and,
Yeah,
and that,
yeah.
and
For-
Energy Star appliances and rebates and how do you upgrade your
And,
home.
and give them an idea of the benefit. In France, for example, everybody has their heating at 19 degrees Celsius.
What's
And
that?
they were able to calculate the economy of that behavior. The whole country is doing that. Here, we do it at our personal initiative.
Right,
But if we can tell people, well, this is the benefit,
yeah.
to motivate people.
And people will be motivated by saving money on their own electricity. bills.
Absolutely, whichever way.
My mother used to get after us all the time, and she would say, I mean, her famous thing was, do you think we have a share in Con Edison, which was the New York Electric
Right.
Company? She would, I mean, and that was in this country.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not just in
Yeah.
foreign countries.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, unfortunately, in this country, people who have enough money not to worry about stuff like that don't worry about stuff like that. I'm not saying everybody. I don't want to paint everybody with the same
But you're right.
brushstroke,
Well,
but
we're spoiled.
yeah. So, but just a very just basic discussion of like generation. What does that mean? What are the main ways electricity gets generated?
And they have I haven't looked at it, but years ago, you've got ISO New England.
Yeah, they have great slides.
And they've got
Yeah.
all that information on there, so at any given time, you'll say, okay, they need 24,000 megawatts worth of generation because it's 20 degrees out today in January, and this is how much they need the generators to produce, and where is it coming from? And they'll say, well, 20% of it came from nuclear, and so much came from solar.
Right,
It's
right.
all there on their website.
Right.
And it also lists probably the amount of generation that's in all of New England.
Right.
So there might be 35,000 megawatts worth of generation that's there, and at any given time, the most that they would ask for is 24,000.
And that
That
brings
kind of
up
stuff.
a good point. What we should probably plan on doing is having a handout for each session with helpful websites. Because we can't,
That's a great
like,
idea.
all that ISO New England, because there may be somebody sitting in that audience that says, I really want to know, and you're not going to have time to really get into that. So at the end of, we'll always say, at the end of the program, you can pick up one of these flyers. It has some helpful websites on the topics that we covered today. And let that be, takeaway.
Something just popped in my head. I used to attend programs where, and I don't know if Capelike Compact does this anymore, but they would have for free LED light bulbs. Do they do that anymore?
Here's the evolution of energy efficiency. So back at the beginning of these programs, when Mass Save first became, and they first got permission to charge us for energy efficiency. So one of those little lines on your bill is energy efficiency. They did a huge push to get people to stop using incandescent light bulbs. And so Mass Save bought tons of those curly, those compact fluorescent bulbs.
Yes,
And they were giving them away everywhere. When you had an energy audit, they put them everywhere in your house. And then the next big thing, the LED lights came, and so they came back and took out your compact fluorescents and screwed in the LED lights. But believe it or not, we've saturated the market. Everybody has LED lights everywhere.
No, they don't.
And so they have stopped subsidizing free light bulbs. Because there's not, see, when Capelike Compact or any energy efficiency provider, and they're off, obviously off Cape, there are other people. When you get your money for energy efficiency, and then you have a program that uses up that money, you hope at the end of the year you've used it all, you have to prove that everything that you did saved energy. Because so many people already have these lights, it's not saving them. They can't claim it. I mean, it doesn't help them, towards their required amount of.
There's still a few out there, because I just did one I bought a new dehumidifier. It was for 25 or 35 bucks back. And I bought an electric chainsaw. So they're trying to reduce emissions in the state, so they give you 25 bucks
Right.
off.
Oh, there's a lot of rebates.
So
Yeah.
there's lots of those
Oh, yeah.
ways for customers to
Yeah.
reduce their
Right.
costs.
But as far as light bulbs are concerned, that program pretty much got
Okay.
phased out.
Okay,
Yeah.
very interesting though,
Yeah.
our maintenance guy came to change one of the light bulbs in my kitchen fixture. And it was an incandescent bulb, and I have.
Was it a real incandescent? Because they have some LEDs that look like incandescent
And
bulbs.
I don't know.
Okay.
I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I had a supply of LEDs, and I said, why don't you put that one in? And I actually had so many that I gave him a box of two.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know what they're doing in senior housing, because they cut corners like crazy.
I don't think you can even buy incandescents anymore.
I think you can. You go to Home Depot, you're gonna see that one aisle where it's all different sizes, so I mean, I'm there because I'm looking for
Yeah,
the
that's
Christmas
so good.
bulbs at that time of year. So but there's a law that only up to a certain wattage
Right.
could be
yeah.
incandescent
And I
anymore.
think they're still trying to phase them out completely.
Okay, I was
But
just,
I would-
I was
I
just
would-
wondering, because I.
But that could be something that, you know, you and your fellow residents could ask your management company.
We're about to change management.
Oh, okay.
So it's.
All right, so Citizens Energy, we need to focus on the first one. Our February meeting, let's make sure that we finalize all of that,
Mhm.
and I'll keep you posted on everything else. Okay. Let's just take this last one off the agenda. I talked to Julie about this, and in her capacity as a selectman, and she also worked on the green energy application, so she was pretty much involved with choosing that piece of property.
Okay.
And it's no way Jose. That's the piece of property, it's gonna stay that piece of property. The only concession that the town might consider is clearing, if they had a bona fide offer to build a solar farm there, they might do the clearing. Like, they might go in and have their DPW guys go in and clear it. But they're not changing the lot. I mean,
Right.
that's where it's gonna be. So, I'm not sure where that leaves us. I haven't looked too much further into looking for a company to develop it, but
Okay, well, that's good to know. It's too bad, but.
yeah, that is what it is.
Before we close, you were saying that if we have any idea to discuss or present to Dinah, I'm always concerned about, and this came to my mind because of the situation in California with this horrendous flooding that came out of the blue. How to prepare ourselves from the energy point of view in case of a disaster, a northeasterner, whatever. And from the energy point of view,
Well,
I wouldn't know where to go to prepare myself. For example, if I were to flood because I have no electricity in my house and my pipes burst, I wouldn't, and I would flood. How do I turn off the energy in order not to
Well, you're
be
lucky.
electrocuted?
You've got a box somewhere that says solar with a lever, and you just pull that down and you cut off all your electricity.
Oh, I need to learn that.
Yeah,
Go to
you
my
should-
basement and.
Yeah, mine is on the outside of
But
my
this
house.
is what I'm
So I
talking
can
about,
turn
you
off
know?
my solar, I can turn off my
Yeah.
whole thing.
Do you have a basement?
Yeah, of course. And I have.
Well, there's houses out here on pads, but anyways, you're gonna have.
But
a
I don't
breaker
know
panel.
how, I didn't know that I needed to do, this is my point. I don't know what to
you
do.
need to do on that. If you have do you have a generator?
Yes,
You do have a generator.
yes.
Okay, your generator automatically will.
Kicks in.
But she's
in.
saying if her basement fills up with water, it may or may not.
I will,
Okay.
I will
Okay.
electrocute myself if I go to the basement. That's what I think. Maybe
Okay.
I'm
Right.
wrong. I don't
Right.
know.
I think that's something that we should talk about with the climate network, because a lot of these things really are climate related. Because if you look out in California, it's like they went from a mega drought to
A
drowning,
mega flood.
you know, and
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, we should probably have a way to catch all this water.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yeah.
it's like now it occurs to them that
Yeah.
they should have underground reservoirs, you know, that where the runoff can just go into and be stored and then used later, but it didn't occur to them really until this week.
Until now. Well,
So anyway,
I don't know.
so that's something that it's called adaptation, and
I just wanted to mention that in this week's, I got the APCC newsletter every week, and there was a section about they had different areas of the country where they had reports about regional climate impact. And they were, this is just a two-page one for Cape Cod, but it's not new information, it's not anything we don't know about, but to me, just to have it all in one place.
oh yeah, and hopefully the climate network people will have stuff like that for people, you know.
And there's a lot of, like, they have featured adaptation efforts.
Yep. I know that, I mean, so, for example, one of the big projects that I know about, if you go to Nauset Beach in Orleans, all right, very popular beach. Used to have a restaurant there, it used to.
Clam Shack.
So they actually, well, the town of Orleans, actually many years ago, put in a retreat plan. So they already have scheduled when they are moving they have buildings there, like, they have it on the books already, that it's gonna move, you know, by this date, this building will be gone, by this date, that building will be gone. You know, so they put in place a retreat plan for Nauset Beach. Every town needs to have retreat plans.
Right, and you know what, Cape Cod Commission had a program a few years ago, and they went to all the towns.
Yep.
Harwich never had it. Harwich was never scheduled.
We did something.
I don't know what
Yeah.
we did, but I remember seeing it. I remember, I don't know if I sent a letter, an email to Christie, and she referred it to Erin Perry. But basically, I said, how come? She said, because you never asked for it.
And another thing that other towns are starting to, like I told you before, the town of Barnstable hired an environmental, energy, climate person. This is that person's whole entire job for the town of Barnstable, is managing this kind of thing. Which would be somebody that would take care of charging stations, and would look at adaptation and mitigation, and
Nice.
that's their whole job, that's what they do, you know. Barnstable, of course, is bigger than Harwich, so.
Your bigger towns do hire sustainability
Yeah.
managers, but
Yeah.
they're bigger towns, they're not towns of
They're
10,000.
not Harwich, yeah.
You know, they're 40,000.
Right, like
Population
Barnstable,
or higher.
but Falmouth did too. Falmouth
Oh,
is-
Falmouth did too.
Yeah.
But Falmouth is a little forward-looking anyway, so.
Well,
In
Yes,
some
very
things,
much
in
so.
some things.
Yeah,
Falmouth,
very.
Before we
Rosemary.
pack up,
I know.
who has a calendar that can we, so we can.
February, it's, oh, I wrote it down.
You wrote it down.
February, I think it's February 9th, yes, February 9th is our next meeting. And we already have the room.
Excellent.
Yes, I think I booked for January, February, March. I will double check next time I'm over here.
All right, so if you have no major additions, subtractions for the outline for the energy extravaganza, I will send that in to Council on Aging so she can get it in the. Charlie, still there? Anything you want to add before we close out the meeting?
No, but I just think if you're doing all these presentations, you wanna talk about how you can use the natural gas use. Induction heating for electric storage.
Yep.
That ought to be added.
I'm sure it'll turn up in one of the presentations, whether it's in the climate one or the Capelike Compact energy efficiency one. We'll get it in there.
Okay, good.
So, meeting is adjourned,
4:07.
4:07. See you when do you come back, Charlie? April? Okay. Okay. All right, good to know. All right, talk to you later, Charlie, bye. Okay. Bye.
Okay.
How did you make out with your problem with Eversource and what they're using